8 o'clock on the dot, actually starting on time? It can't be. Oh, it is, because Jeff's not here. On Comic Book Canon! That's right. Jeff is not here tonight, so we were able to start at 8 o'clock when the show is scheduled to start. And now I just want to point out, I'm here. Jeff's not. There's a variable factor and there's a constant factor. I want you all to think. I want you to logically use your brains and decipher who may be at fault for the 8:03 to 8:08 starts every single week. Hint, it's not me. Anyway, Jeff unfortunately is not here. He is sick, apparently. He left this video.
Sorry, it's just not going to happen. I got the COVID.
I don't believe him. The Eagles kickoff is in a few minutes, and I think that's why he's not here, but we'll allow it. I'll be catching up on my phone throughout the show and then catching the second half of the game afterwards, but we need to have a second person on the show. You have to have a co-host. So one of our all-time favorite guest co-hosts is back, Mike himself, the Pope of Chillytown.
Hey,
Mike, you're going to need to remove the mask if you want to talk. Jeff's not in your house. You're not going to get COVID. Jeff, he's not there. I promise.
Okay.
You're okay. You're okay. So you can't get it through the computer anyway.
Okay.
So you're good. You're good.
The websites I read tell me all kinds of things about it, so I don't know.
Yeah, you never know. You never know how the COVIDs get you. We're learning new things every day. Anyway, we're here because we couldn't take a week off, mainly because there's 2 holidays at the end of this month, and we really couldn't afford to take a week off. So the show must go on. Me and Mike are here, and all of you good people, which we'll say hi to in a minute. But first, let us get into the news. And you know what? I am going to be much slower at this than Jeff usually is. But we got some great news, starting off with a little bit of it's almost like positive controversy. It's a little bit of controversy that has led to some positive things, and that is the Deadpool leaks. There have been a bunch of Deadpool leaks, set photos and information about potential castings and people reprising roles and stuff like that. But Ryan Reynolds did something pretty cool this week. He decided to flood the internet with fake leaks, and there have been a ton of them, including Mickey Mouse appearing on set. We have Predator. I think that's Predator, at least, hanging out with him and Hugh, and it looks like a stunt double there. And even Steve Urkel from 90s fan favorite Family Matters was dancing on set. And his whole thing was he was trying to basically make a campaign to dissuade these other leaks from being shown across the internet. And he said, hey, post these fake leaks and use like hashtag Deadpool leaks and stuff like that. I thought that was so cool. And the best thing about it is that some media outlets said, hey, you know what? Ryan Reynolds is right. Let's just not post anything about Deadpool leaks. So a couple media outlets, mainly comic book community outlets, have said, okay, we're gonna listen to Ryan here. We're not gonna post any more leaks for this movie. So hopefully there'll be some great surprises. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, actually, that's the first time I saw a lot of those. I've been, as I mentioned on my thing this morning, like I've been like really out of it the last couple of weeks because of it's so crazy. So I hadn't even seen. I think I saw the Mickey Mouse one at one point, but that's really cool. That they did that. I mean, at this point, like, some sites they're happy to leak because they want the clicks, and some sites aren't. I mean, I certainly am someone that thinks that movies, tend to get really over marketed and too many trailers, and we know way too much, and freaking toy catalogs and all the different ways you learn about like secrets.
Right.
If you think about like the worst was probably Multiverse of Madness, all those leaks of the Reed Richards and that whole crew, Illuminati, right?
Illuminati,
Right
yeah.
before the movie dropped, and then Marvel ended up having to like kind of drop TV ads with them in it because it's like, well, it's out there now. There's nothing we can do about it. But
People knew, yeah.
yeah, that stuff was, I think, believed supposed to be like you weren't supposed to know that till you were sitting in the movie. And that movie, I feel like I knew every single beat of that movie, like going through it. It didn't help the experience. So yeah, like I know we have, I'm sure in our chat, like our buddy Josh is someone who likes that kind of stuff. Like he actively goes out, right, and like Reddit and things like that. Like he always seems to know the ins and outs.
Yeah, and everyone's different. If you're into looking up the spoilers and knowing ahead of time, go for it. But just be careful that you're not sharing that information even accidentally with anyone else. I had to unfollow someone on Instagram a while ago because they were like, "Oh my God, can you believe this spoiler?" and just straight up posted it. Like it wasn't even like, it's one thing if you post like, "Okay, don't read the caption, don't flip to the next panel or whatever." It was
that
bad.
should be a felony. No trial, straight to execution. That's not okay.
That is rough. So anyway, I think that is, something that was a negative that turned to a positive. And that's always good.
And only Ryan Reynolds, like that dude is just like, he's so great, and only he would have that kind of savvy to pull something like that off. Like,
right. Someone said one time online that like regarding Ryan Reynolds, they were like, that dude must have been like some kind of like medieval peasant who like, shoveled horse shit for like, his entire life in a past life because, he is just running hot in this life. It's true. Anyway, on to the next piece of news. Another little bit of like kind of controversy here. We've got a comic shop owner speaking out against comic shop writers, and you can take this, with a grain of salt. You can, watch the video for yourself. But he basically spoke about how he's unhappy with the current state of the comic book in a writing sense, which he kind of blamed on the writers injecting themselves into the story, taking their own approach on these characters. And in my opinion, there's a balance. There's a balance here. We don't want the same Steve Rogers story over and over and over and over and over again. We don't want the same Peter Parker story over and over and over and over again. We want new and exciting stories, but we also need to respect the source material. And this is really important. There's a new Hickman run of Spider-Man. We've talked about it on the show a bunch, a new Ultimate run where Peter Parker is going to be a little bit older. He's going to be married with kids, and he's going to be a working class New Yorker. And I think that's a really cool spin on the character that can do really well. So these changes are not bad things, but a lot of people have issue with it. And I think it's, like I said, I think it's a balance. I think you need to not stray too far from the original source material, but you need new and exciting things. Now, as far as this comic shop owner basically talking crap on his own merchandise, I don't think it's a good business move on his part, not just for customers, but also, for the distributors and the publishers and the writers. And a lot of them fired back at him. And a lot of have since deleted their responses as well. I haven't really kept up with the drama side of this, but I do think it is an important topic to talk about. Mike, want to weigh in a little bit?
Yeah, like I really did try to get caught up on this before we went on, and I did see some of it. I saw he was on Mark Millar's YouTube channel, kind of discussing it a bit. And it's funny because I actually, my little thing I do some Sunday mornings, the Sunday comic sermon, like I was kind of talking about something along these lines this morning, not quite the same thing. But yeah, it's a really nuanced argument, right? Because like when he was like, so the bit I saw on Mark Millar's show, like he actually said, like he expanded on his argument to basically say like he didn't want to see current events, which I think is even taking it further than than people thought what he was talking about. Like writing, like the whole thing was originally writers writing these characters as themselves. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, I think like Swaggle House's video was very good, and he was talking about you have to stay to the core of the character. Like, like Tony Stark is a great example, right? The whole famous story of Stan Lee talking about creating Tony Stark, about how it was almost like a challenge or a bet or something, where it's like, oh, you can't make a superhero out of like a corporate, businessman type of thing, and he like kind of went out and did it. And not only that, now he's like the most popular superhero, thanks to the MCU for sure of all time.
Yeah.
So, but you also, you have to think that like, like think about everything these characters had been through at this point. Like none of us are the same person we were 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 5 years ago.
Right.
There has to be some like organic movement. It can't just be like, like Dan Slott leaves Spider-Man, and then next month, I don't know, Brian Bendis comes back to Superman or Spider-Man, and it's a totally different character. Like there needs to be continuity is a big word that we live by. So you have to take the life experiences of Peter Parker, and certainly he can change as a person, but it shouldn't be like this crazy change from just like a month to another month or something. And there needs to be a story reason behind it. I think that's what this guy's getting to, is everything needs to be supported by good storytelling, and he doesn't feel like it is.
Yeah. And I agree to some extent. There have been, especially as a huge Spider-Man fan, there have not been many amazing Spider-Man runs recently, story arcs, and by recently I mean past multiple years, that have really caught my attention. Like, the original runs, like the Ultimate run, even like some of the earlier 2000s runs, and like what you said about current events. I just want to go back to that for a second. I think current events have always been in comics, and I don't really understand the notion that, oh, I don't want to see these current events injected into comics, when they really have been, going back to the golden age when World War II was a major factor, and these international issues that were arising for the first time. And in the 60s and 70s there was a lot of civil unrest, and a lot of that was brought up in comics, especially in the X-Men, where that is like the main focus of a lot of the X-Men titles. But yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that point. But
yeah,
again,
look at how Marvel handled 9/11, for example, something more recent, and they took it head on, and
right.
And then the Cap title relaunched with a new #1 around that time, that was with that Fight Terror cover. So yeah, so that kind of surprises. Like, I wasn't really sure what his, because again, I only saw clips. I didn't watch his whole thing. I only saw clips of it, so I wasn't sure if he was like upset about some of the like, again, the quote unquote like woke or whatever, or like the like shoehorning in a social agenda. And I think these stories, like, they're fantasy stories, right? Like they should almost always be allegories, or you should they're either going to be in your face stories about things happening in the world, or they're going to be allegories to things happening in the world. And I think it comes down to the quality of the writer. I think some writers, they're just sort of putting these things out there that there's not the right level of nuance to how they're telling a story. And so it comes down to good writing or bad writing.
Yeah, and that's gonna be the factor with everything. There's plenty of good comic book writers who I like the majority of their stuff, and I might not like all of it, but that's okay. And there's also plenty of comic book writers that I'm like, oh, that person's writing, I don't really know if I'm going to take the time about to go ahead and read their stuff, just because I haven't had a good experience with it in the past. But I think there's going to be the people that do complain about these issues, complain about how comic books are written and the topics. No matter what, they're going to be people that will complain just to complain, pick apart every part, not care about the story. And a lot of those people aren't really buying comic books anymore. So like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean,
there are plenty of people plenty of people, I'll tell you, that are still buying comic books every week, buying, new ones off the rack. I know people that are subbed to, 24 different issues. You want to talk to someone who buys and reads a lot of comic books? Jim from Bronzeville Comics said he spends, I think, $500 a month on new issues. That guy, and he's so far behind on reading, he just finished Blackest Night, which came out in 2009. Yeah. So, I mean,
too, like I was really trying to put all this together, and I think I'm sure there's a lot of different factors that go into this, but like, and I hate to sound like the old man in the room, and I know that because I am.
You are.
And I don't want to make it, I don't want to make it sound like, like I walked uphill both ways to school, like one of those types of things. But newer generations are coming up now, right? And they're coming up with different life experiences, and they're coming up. There's people coming up behind us now, like I guess you're probably a millennial, I think. Is that right, Joe?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's what Gen Z is coming up behind that, right? But you think about, like, if there's Gen Z people coming into, like getting to the age where they could be professionally writing, and that grew up sort of with social media in the background, with stream. We're not having to wait week to week to watch a television show. Just boom, boom, boom. They're all right there at once. With like TikTok videos, sort of like living their lives in these 30-second clips or these 2-minute YouTube videos, and they probably have a completely different idea of what it means to craft a story than Stan Lee did. So I hope there's people coming up that really kind of know what it means, to really get into character and plotting and story and all that good stuff. But this could be like a trend of just what these younger generation is sort of used to, sort of how they're used to consuming their media, and they're just doing it in a way that they're trying to put out there the way that they've been consuming it, which is in these short, like, just in your face moments.
Yeah. I just want to bring up this. Matt Savage says, a new spin on a classic character has no interest to me, but that's just me. And like I said, everyone's going to have their own opinion. But if we think about, I'm just going to go with the MCU, because not just the MCU, but movies in general. The biggest one that comes out to me is Winter Soldier. A super loved character. In fact, my 2 favorite MCU movies are Winter Soldier and Civil War, hands down. And that is a character who's only been around in the last 20 years. That's a new spin on a character from the 40s. I'm not saying you're wrong. We all are entitled to our opinions, but same with Spider-Gwen. Gwen Stacy has been around since the early 60s, and she was completely revamped and is known to a much, much wider audience, and a much, much younger audience too. Like, my nephew knows Gwen Stacy because of Spider-Gwen. If Spider-Gwen wasn't a character, he wouldn't. So I don't think these new spins, these reboots, these alternate universe stories and stuff like that, they're not bad. Sometimes they are. Sometimes, they're left in the dust, but we get to pick and choose as the purchasers, as the readers, what we're going to continue to read. I can tell you this: if Spider-Gwen had not been a hit initially, there would not have been multiple solo runs of the character. She would not have been used in Into the Spider-Verse, so on and so forth. So, I mean, it's all going to depend.
It's funny, like in comics, I find that they always try to experiment with, taking a character in a different way. And it always seems like they always end up coming back. They always reboot back to the core character, right? It's like they do something crazy with Spider-Man or, Peter Parker, whatever, clones and everything. But then eventually it's like, boom, he's back in the red and blue. He's Peter Parker again. And then again, whatever else. And then always, like, they always cycle back to like that core basic character, because that's really that's always going to be the most popular version, except in one exception, when essentially you said Winter Soldier, but not even so much Winter Soldier. But if you remember, there was a time when Bucky was Cap, and at the same time, Dick was Batman. And both of those were super popular runs. And there was moments, I remember hearing people say, like, we don't want Steve and Bruce back. Like, these are great.
It was what, Grant Morrison and Brubaker. Like, they do their job, know.
And it's the one time I remember, like, the fan community was like, we're set, we're happy, let's move on, But then of course they would do different things and whatever. But I do remember that specifically. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of those writers, because of the the ownership of the characters created, they end up going to write because they're popular writers and they can have that following, they can sell books. They'll go write for Image, or they'll do something through Comixology because they're going to get way more money, especially if it sells as like an IP to, be option, TV show, movie, whatever. That's going to be much better for them in the long run. I think I've mentioned this fact on here before. I talk about it all the time. Brubaker gets paid more for a background cameo appearance in Captain America Winter Soldier than he does for creating the character. He gets royalty checks on that movie, and he gets more from that. Not even a speaking line. He is in the background as an extra. He gets more from that than he does from creating the freaking Winter Soldier character. And, that just goes to show, these creators, the ones for the big companies, they're not compensated as they maybe should be. So yeah, just, make sure you're supporting these creators, especially the ones that you like.
Yeah. Agree.
All right. Well, we have a third news story. We stuck on this one for a little bit longer. So I am going to move on to the next one. I just want to click this thing right here first. Would be interested to understand what the traditionalists said about Frank Miller Batman when it first came out. That's an interesting topic, and we can maybe go into that sometime after doing a little bit of research. I mean, I certainly was not alive when that came out, so I can't talk on it specifically from that time period. But yeah, it's pretty interesting there.
I bought those off the shelf, Joe.
Yeah, well, I wasn't born yet. Anyway, we have one more piece of news, and this is some very, very surprising news coming from DC, specifically coming from James Gunn, because I don't think anyone would have guessed this, but it seems that he's going to be casting his brother, Sean Gunn, in a DC movie. I really didn't see this coming. Like, his track record doesn't really show any favoritism towards his brother. And all of this is sarcasm, by the way, because his brother has been in like almost every freaking movie that he's ever made. Not that I don't have an issue with it. I think Sean Gunn's actually really funny and a pretty solid actor. And he's been great in supporting roles. Now he's playing Maxwell Lord, which could be more of a background supporting role, but also could be a very major character. So I don't really know what's going to happen with this, but Sean Gunn's great. Mike, you're more of a Justice League, especially the Justice League 87. I know you really like that run, and that was a big Maxwell Lord run from what I know. What do you think about that casting?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maxwell Lord was he's very smarmy is the best word to describe him, I think, from that run. I mean, you have to think, you're talking about like the Maxwell Lord was, in that Giffen and DeMatteis and Kevin Maguire, kind of like jokey era of Justice League. So I'm sure they're going to play up to those sort of comedic strengths. I mean, look, we knew Sean Gunn was going to be somebody, right? Yeah. This is who he is. I mean, it could go a lot of different ways. Are they going to end up going the villain route with him, since they've already gone that route in the previous DCU? Is he just going to be like some kind of, like you said, like Nick Fury in the MCU, where he's just sending people on missions, or Amanda Waller? I mean, they already have Amanda Waller to do that. So
yeah,
who knows what they're going to do with this? But we just kind of have to wait and see. There's really no other indication. I mean, it could be a major thing, could be a background thing. We'll have to wait and see.
Cool. All right, that's it for the news. Lots going on. We've kind of been getting a solid amount of news every week, since the end of the writers and the actors strike. So that's awesome. We'll definitely be keeping more posted. I think probably post the holiday season, it'll kind of be an explosion, because we'll be moving towards a lot of those movies. By the way, when does Aquaman come out? Does anyone even know when Aquaman comes out? I don't. Anyway,
yeah.
Let's say some hellos to people in the chat. We got Josh's Comics saying yeehaw. He actually beat me to it. I didn't even ask for a yeehaw today, because I was here asking for the funky beats since we have no Jeff. We got Nori Jordan in the house. Pope at Chili Town, our super special guest host for the day. We got somebody in the chat named Jeff Bell. I'm not sure who that is, but he's just here so he won't get fined. I don't think he's a very important member of this community or anything
Isn't that
like
the guy
that.
from ELO?
The guy from ELO, like
Yeah.
Electric Light Orchestra?
Yeah.
I guess so. Sure. Absolutely. Let's do it. Nikita Kare in the house. We got Raw Dog Comics, and we got Comic Toby saying, comic fan. Uh-oh. Pete Keel, I'm going to redact this comment, but we'll still say hi to you anyway. And yes, that was a pregnancy test that Jeff had. It was not a COVID test. It was, in fact, an actual pregnancy test. That is true. We'll see.
All right, it's just not going to happen. I got the COVID.
Yes, that was a pregnancy test. You got us, Comic Toby. He is, in fact, Pregante. We got Collecting Dude. I almost said Comic Dude. He's Collecting Dude. I didn't mess that up. Matt Stash in the house as well. Scrolling down. The Immortal Scruffy hopping right in, coming at us live from Canada. We got Mark Leneker talking about Dallas. We got Exodus. Here's the real one. I'm just going to leave this highlighted the whole night. We don't even need to highlight anyone else. Just kidding. I can't do that. That would be rude. Exodus. Yes. Go Birds. Go Birds. Go Birds. We got Bond. Do it with me, Mike. Paul Bond. That was okay. That was an okay first choice. First try. Reef the Sea Forever. We got Nukes Comics in the house. Anybody else? Dr. Plagueis joining us from deep underground. Yes, he does live deep underground. I know this for a fact. I believe 400 feet under the Earth's crust, if I remember correctly. Anybody else? Here's another one. We got DNT Comics and Collectibles. Where's Jeff? Jeff has COVID today. He really does have COVID. I'm just kidding. We got Goonish Lurker in the house hopping in, and also submitted a fresh from the comic shop that I saw. And that looks like everyone. Dr. Plague is in a bunker. That might be true. That might not be true. I don't know. We'll have to wait and find out. Anyway, that's it for the hellos. Thank you all for joining us tonight on a phenomenal Sunday. Ooh, by the way, we've got some news about what the fresh from the comic shop prize is going to be this month, and I'm very excited to share that, but we got a couple other segments first. Mike, were you going to say something?
No, I'm just excited about that.
Oh, you just got very excited.
Yeah.
Well, you can't pick yourself to win, so yeah, sorry. That's just how it is. Anyway, we got a couple other segments before we get into fresh from the comic shop. Of course, Ask Joe as always. So right now, if you want to start putting Ask Joe questions, and this can be Ask Joe and Mike today, since he's here, you can put some Ask Joe and Mike questions into the chat now. And while we're doing that, we'll have our correspondent Chet, who is, I guess, somehow growing on us every week. He kind of redeems himself a little bit from those early days of, just screwing with me and Jeff. And he's kind of become part of the team here. He's going to talk about the new comic books of the week. Then we'll get into some Ask Joe. So make sure you put the questions in the chat. And now I'm talking a little bit more to stall because I can't find the Chet stuff. Oh, here we go. I found it. Just kidding. Here we go. Chet, take it away.
Comic book peasants, behold the greatest comic book picks of the week, delivered by your reigning monarch, Chet. First Moon Knight, number 30, delivers a finale you won't believe. Witness the fall of one Moon Knight and the rise of another. This is groundbreaking stuff, folks, and only a mind like mine can fully appreciate its brilliance. Next, House of Slaughter number 20 plunges you into a monster-filled haunted house with bait and Ninette. The stakes are high, and the secrets are deadly. Be prepared for thrills and chills, you simpletons. Finally, Radiant Black number 27 takes you into the heart of the Catalyst War, where Nathan and Marshall face the consequences of their choices. This is epic storytelling, folks, and only a discerning mind like mine can truly grasp its magnitude. So there you have it, the cream of the crop for this week's new comic book day. Go forth and purchase these gems, but don't expect to fully understand them. After all, your puny brains can't handle that much brilliance. Happy holidays, you comic book nincompoops. Shut out.
I definitely love his attire for this week. That was pretty snazzy, we're going to say.
I mean, I like that wherever he's hanging out. Like, he's got some high-end, that's some, like, high-end
He's at the grape room in Manayunk where they have grape soda on tap.
Oh, okay.
For those of you who don't know, Manayunk is a popular bar and nightlife area of Northwest Philadelphia, and there is a bar there called the Grape Room. There we go. Now
Okay.
everyone has connected the dots. But yeah, Chet, you're looking pretty good.
Thanks for having me, guys. I always enjoy teaching those who don't know much about comics. You're welcome. It's been
That guy. All right. Just when I think he's redeeming himself, he says stuff like that. That's okay. All right. We got some questions in the chat, but Mike, I'm going to ask you, because this is a very important part of the show. We're about to get into, the segment known as Ask Joe. Very important. We do a musical rendition of the theme song. I'm going to ask for maybe a little beatbox in the background from you.
Okay.
You beatbox. I'll do the honors of taking Jeff's spot and doing the vocalizations, and we'll get into it.
I was going to ask you if I was required to scream like a lunatic at my computer, but you're going to handle it.
You're not, unless you want to. But I was going to say, if you just beatbox, that's going to be what I need.
Okay.
All right, ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Did you like the baritone?
That was great.
I don't know if that's really baritone. I'm not much of a singer, but I did my best. I wasn't afraid to make mistakes. I tried. I tried
to get a little like house music for it.
Okay. I honestly, it's very hard to hear the other person. So like, especially when I'm just putting so much into my vocalizations. So Anyway, we got some questions in the chat, and yes, Manayunk does rule. Very cool place. Oh, Dan De La Torre's in the house, and we have some very, very unfortunate, devastating news. 7-0 Dallas. That's okay. Do your metal screaming. I don't know if this mic would pick that up too well. Being Joe's beatbox's life goals. There we go. Joe was a risk taker. I definitely was. All right, let's get into some of these questions. We're going to put this one up first from D&T, Danny and Tessa, Comics and Collectibles. Ask Joe and Mike, CBC, who would win in a fight to the death between your two favorite comic book characters? So my two favorite comic book characters are Spider-Man and Nightcrawler. And that would be a really, really interesting fight because we've got one character that can teleport. Another character that has incredible senses and could definitely sense that teleportation, but I don't know if their spidey senses could keep up with it. What I'm thinking is kind of the teleportation would be useful in a way that it would confuse Peter's senses, similar to like how like Mysterio's illusions and stuff confuse. So I Spider-Man is clearly the stronger character, but I think Nightcrawler has a fighting chance. I think this is actually would make a really, really good battle. So I'm going to say I could go either way for mine.
Okay. So I'm going to go with, I guess up near the top for me would be Batman and Judge Dredd.
Okay. Prep time.
Yeah, that has a lot to do with it. I feel like it's a fight to the death, though.
Yeah.
And Judge Dredd is much more into that final solution type of thing. So, but I don't know. I think Batman would probably end up outsmarting him. You know, Judge he's a smart dude, but I think I'd go with Batman.
Batman. Okay. I'm with you on that. As someone who doesn't know too much about Judge Dredd, I can see that being the answer. And it's good. I kind of half of me thought you were going to pick V from V for Vendetta. And then like any superhero is obviously going to win that battle. But yeah, at least it wasn't that case. Judge Dredd versus Superman or something like that. All right. Good one. I like that question. A little bit of abstract thought there. Anyway, where are we? On to the next one from Exodus. What is your biggest grail that you don't have that isn't Marvel, DC, or Image? Now, this is that you don't have, and I know you've picked up some grails recently. I think I know what your answer is going to be, and it actually pertains to the last question. Am I right?
You nailed it. I mean,
yeah.
2000 AD, number 2.
Yep.
Would definitely be, like you're talking about, that's an expensive book, especially finding it it's not like finding it in high grade is not so much the issue, but finding it with the stickers that came with it.
Yeah.
And that's a pricey piece of newspaper because it's basically more of a newsprint thing. So, but that would, especially if you're canceling out the big publishers. I mean, but even if they were in there, that would probably be my top seed.
Yeah. Non-Marvel DC Image, Chamber of Chills 19. That is a book that I really hope that I get to own someday. Very cool book, very sought after, and fairly scarce. It's not one of those books that there's 20 on the census or whatever, but it's a scarce golden age horror book. Great cover. For those of you who don't know, it's there's a skeletal hand holding a glass and a woman behind it. And where the glass covers the woman's face, you can see through it, and it's a skeleton there. Whereas the rest of her face, when not obscured by the glass, is a pretty lady. Chamber of Chills 19. Great one. All right. On to the next question. We got one from Josh's Comics. With over 70 years plus of comic knowledge between you, what is your advice to newer collectors getting into the hobby today? Mike, do you want to do this one first?
I mean, I think, hopefully it's someone coming in, because you could say there's people that definitely come into the hobby to be a collector, and there's people that maybe come into the hobby as a reader. I think most people probably come in as a reader. I think when the market gets super hot, people come in, with the wrong sort of intentions, and they're playing the market, that type of thing. So I don't really talk about that. But if you're talking about someone you're trying to get someone into comics, or they're just in a comic book store or whatever, I mean, I think it's just something that for most people just grows really organically. You start picking up things that look interesting to you,
Sure.
Start reading. I mean, some people probably, a lot of, come in probably through licensed properties. Right. I know even for me, I probably was watching Super Friends and the 1960s Marvel cartoons on TV before I ever touched a comic book.
Yeah. I think.
Yeah. So there might be people that coming into a comic book store because they just found out that there's a Firefly comic, or there's, there's, the Void Rivals and Transformers and G.I. Joe and whatever.
Sure.
So I would say just, you just kind of got to start reading, and then you'll hopefully find something that sticks, and you'll want to go, then you'll start digging in the back issue bin. And then that usually just, how it goes, it just starts spreading out from there. And before you know it, you're freaking Jim spending $500 a month on new issues for the next 30 years. So
right.
I just say, just dive in and try stuff.
Yeah. And I'm not really 100% sure how to answer this, because everyone is different. Every collector is different. You're going to have the people that are getting into it to read, in which case I would probably give that person suggestions based upon what they're into. If they're into horror, I'm going to give them Witches, my favorite independent comic book ever. If they're into Batman, I might say, okay, why don't you try out New 52? If they're into Spider-Man, I might recommend starting with Ultimate Spider-Man, because it's a great kicking off point of a modern Spider-Man story. It really depends on the situation. If they're into fantasy stuff, I might give them Saga. Saga is one of the best indie reads as well. So for readers, it's pretty easy. You give them the best story. For collectors, it's a little bit different, because every collector is going to be collecting differently. You're going to get the people that want to fill runs, the people that want to hit the key issues, the people that want to get the higher value graded books. I always tell people, start slow. You don't have to grab every book that you want to buy. If something looks cool to you, first of all, check the prices, because a lot of times you're going to be in comic stores or at conventions, and the prices may be higher there than they are somewhere else. Buying everything that you see that you like is a great way to waste some money. Figure out what you want to collect. Do you want to collect runs from your favorite characters. You love X-Men, and you're going to dive into that 90s X-Men Jim Lee run and collect that because it's cheap. Great. Search the dollar bins for those. Don't be spending big money on any of them. And, you know, even the keys, you know, $20 for a first Omega Red. If it's near mint, that's really all, you know, 20, $25 is all you really want to be paying on that. That being said, you know, just that little bit of financial advice, I think, goes a long way, because even at times that I've gotten back into the collecting aspect of comics, I've overspent on, you know, plenty of things. Like when I graduated college and I had like adult money for the first time, was when I really started to collect keys rather than just like kind of buy runs and stuff like that. And man, I spent a lot of money and on stuff that I didn't really need or want or could have gotten a better deal. So those are all, you know, just making sure that you don't end up doing stuff like that is key. Next question, we got one from this Jeff Bell guy again. What's the biggest product from Tasty Cakes?
That's the best product. That's an easy answer.
Crimpets, right?
No, peanut butter candy cakes.
Oh, I don't agree with that. Butterscotch Crimpet. Oh, look at that. Exodus knows Butterscotch Crimpets.
They're good, but peanut
love
butter candy cakes are the top seed, 100%.
I don't know about that. Who's your favorite Judge Dredd artist? That's a good question from
probably Brian Boland. That's if you want to talk about grails, owning a Brian Boland original art piece from Judge Dredd, that is high on my list. Yeah, that's one of my top tippy top things that I want to own at some point from this hobby.
Sweet. That's original art's so cool. This is a pretty cool question from Mark Laneker. How does what's the origin story of the Pennsylvania comic mafia? I was actually kind of brainstorming names the other day of what we can call our little cohort of, you know, me and you and Paul and Alex and you know, James sometimes is with us as well. Mike and I actually met at our LCS. I had followed him on Instagram randomly and he followed me back. We followed each other and didn't meet face to face. And then I think we were like just both at Brave New Worlds one time, and you were like, I think you follow me on Instagram. And I was like, oh yeah, Pope of Chili Town, blah, blah. And we started talking and exchanged numbers and probably took a trip to Connecticut shortly thereafter. And yeah, we've been hanging out. I guess that was 2 years ago, something like that.
Yeah. I think we one trip came up. I think it was a 3-man event.
Yeah.
And I think I kind of reached out to you. Well, no, if you remember, actually, before that, you bought a bunch of bulk off me.
I did.
I had bought. You had COVID.
I bought that off after we met in person.
It was pretty early on, because I remember reaching out to you and I was like, hey man, do you know anybody that buys this type of bulk? And you were like, yeah, I do. And I didn't even realize you were like that deep into buying and, you know, selling stuff. It was pretty early on.
Yeah, because it was when I was at my old house.
Yeah. And you left a table out front for me
because I had COVID.
COVID. I just like literally delivered a collection to your front door.
Yeah.
So there was that, and then there was a 3-man event. I think I reached out to you and I was like, I wanted to go, but I didn't want to drive by myself. And I was like, hey man, are you going? And then we sort of ended up like, you know, it's weird. Like we didn't even really know each other that well.
Yeah.
And then we decided to like jump in a car for, you know, 7 hours up and back. Yeah.
And now we go to Connecticut like 4 times a year together.
Yeah.
Let's see, 2 crawls, the swap, and Terrificon. You know, yeah, at least 4 times a year. And then Paul I've known Alex forever. We've been buddies since middle school. And then Paul showed up to a Back Deck Comic Fest. That's where we all met Paul, at a Back Deck Comic Fest that happened I want to say that was the summer one last year.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, a year and a half ago we met Paul and he started hanging, and I met James, I guess probably around the time that I met you. Just from both of us having YouTube channels, and I went up and I had dinner with James, and yeah, that's how things went. That's how things grow in this community. Just kind of networking with people and all that stuff. All right, we got to keep it moving. We are we're having lots of questions tonight, which is awesome. Thank you very much for putting all these in the chat. We got Comic Toby asking, is it cool to buy variant covers so that you get more artwork? Variant covers are, it's a buy what you like kind of thing. If you really like supporting an artist, supporting a store, supporting a comic book dealer or a YouTuber that's doing an exclusive, or just the cover B, and you want to just, have that cover B, buy it if you like it. Make sure you don't overspend on it. Don't buying variant covers with the intention that they're going to go up in price and you're going to be able to resell them later is not a good way to do it. If you're buying it for the artwork, for the reading or displaying or having it in your collection, that's fine. Don't think, because most variant covers will not go up in price. That's just the way the world works, especially when there's so many of them now. So yeah, it's a totally a buy what you like thing. There's no right or wrong answer. Just again, kind of going back to previous question, be careful what you're spending money on. What's your opinion on the variants here, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't really think I have anything to add to that. I mean, again, like always, anything in this hobby, always let the value be the happy side product of it. I mean, sometimes, listen, there's been times where I've just seen something and I've, maybe ordered a couple on FOC or something and said, let me get this cheap and maybe it'll hit. I just have a feeling about it. Like everybody's, in any investment, I think sometimes you might have a feeling about, but you're more, it's not going to hit more than it is. Right. So just let that be a happy byproduct.
Sure. Absolutely. All right. This looks like the last question, I believe. Most collectors like to collect multiple things aside from comic books and comic related stuff, e.g. art and statues. What else do you collect? So I don't collect too many other things, especially not in the quantity they collect comics, because I don't have the room. I don't have the room or time or money. I do have some Magic the Gathering cards. I'm a lifelong Magic the Gathering player. Been playing since 96 or 17 years of playing. Wait, no, 27. Wow. 27 years of playing Magic the Gathering. So I do have some higher value, like collectible investment Magic the Gathering cards. I do collect Crow stuff as well. That's kind of my one thing that I collect. You might have seen my reel. I picked up a video, a VHS of the Crow the other day, and I picked up some movie posters from Mike here when he was selling some Crow ones. But yeah, that's really it. I mean, other than that, I have like a couple like little cool things. I have a piece, I skateboard, and I have a piece of the ramp that Tony Hawk did his last 900 on. And that is the only piece of sports memorabilia that I have. But yeah, that's really it for me. Comics are by far the main thing, and comic book artwork as well. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, not much else currently. I mean, I do have a large supply of movie posters that I was collecting for a long time. I mean, I was getting a lot of them free when I worked in the movie theater business, but I was also purchasing some vintage ones. And it's funny, like my girlfriend was at the time, well, she was my girlfriend at the time. She's still my girlfriend, but at the time she was also collecting as movie posters as well. We both kind of had that love for those things. So we sort of amassed a pretty large collection of that. Some people have seen on my streams and stuff, I have a lot of pieces upstairs from the Warner Brothers store, Batman the Animated Series, cells, things like that, Alex Ross lithographs. I would say the other thing I've sort of original art as well. I mean, I try to, grab, and I don't grab it a lot, but I do like to sort of add to that collection when I can. So that's probably something that's a little more active. The other thing is, I discovered about maybe 6 or 7 years ago that there were actually a few really good and very regular Doctor Who conventions that sort of come up in this area that aren't too far of a drive. There's one in Long Island that's very good. There was one in Baltimore that was very good that sort of went under. And that's like one of my top jams is Doctor Who. And I've amassed a great number of autographs. They get really good guests at these conventions of of the living main characters, including the doctors and the companions, like I'm down to a very, very small handful of autographs that I don't have.
Yeah.
And photos with the doctors and that type of thing. So what I like about that is it's very concise. I've got like 2 or 3 books that I get signed. I get some pictures taken, and they don't take up a lot of room, but I have them, and it's really, you know, meaningful collection to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there's things that I made a rule for myself: no toys. At one point, I made it very hard because I knew if I went down that path, it was going to be chaos. So I've really stuck to that. So there's a lot of things that I, you know, sometimes I'll see something. It's like, if I just get this one, like this really cool James Bond toy or something, if I could just get this, but I know if I start, you know, what's going to happen. So that's probably it for me.
Solomon Grundy here. He sits on my desk. This is the only toy that I own, and I bought it at a yard sale last year for 25 cents. That's the only toy I own. The only toys that I would buy would be Crow toys. Only thing, not even Nightcrawler. Nope. Just Crow toys. I don't actually have any Crow toys. I have some Crow like little statue things, but no Crow toys yet. But yeah, I'm with you on that. It's in my opinion, and you can collect however you want, but it's better to stay focused than to be too spread out on so many different things, because you really can't focus on those things. And like you said, he can get messy. He can definitely get messy.
Listen, if you have FU money and all the space in the world, then go for it. But most of us don't. So you got to be careful.
Yep. And yeah, one of the big things is I regularly watch the show Hoarders so that it gives me motivation to purge myself of stuff. I actually got rid of 33 long boxes of bulk this week, which was a very nice purge. And Mike saw the transformation in the last week of my living room. And there are way less comics in my living room than there were a week ago. So that feels very good to have. So yeah, always keep up with that stuff. All right. I did say last question, but we got one more. What would cause you to retire from comic book collecting? Death? Yeah, that there's really not too much, you know. Obviously significant financial issues would cause me to sell my comics, but I still would probably keep some really low value stuff that I just want. I can't really see anything that would stop me from wanting to own some sort of comics, because, you know, there are comics that I plan to never get rid of and hand down to my kids, you know, not necessarily the most expensive stuff, but the stuff that is meaningful to me, stuff that is like my favorite stories, you know, that stuff I would love to hand down to kids in the future. So yeah, there's I don't think there's anything that would really get me out of the hobby, because it's something I love.
Yeah, I mean, like the people that are here every week, it's in your blood. It gets in your blood, and it's, you're never going to walk away completely. I've had periods of time when I wasn't as active in the hobby as I have at other periods of time. I've told the story before, but just real quickly, like there was a moment where I was trying to go digital because I didn't want to lug all these comics around with me my whole life when I was moving and stuff. And I was like, let me just look. The digital comics look great. All I want to do is read the stories. I don't need to collect them. And I fell out of comics for about 7 or 8 years because I found just losing that ritual of walking into the comic book store every week and talking to people and like just looking at the shelves and stuff. Like it caused me to kind of lose a little bit of interest. So, but it was in my blood, it never left. I was still going to cons now and then and getting stuff signed and whatever that I owned. So, even if like this guy was saying, earlier about the, like if he thinks like all the current comics just all of a sudden start being terrible, you can still collect the old stuff. You can still collect a period of stuff that you like and enjoy. So there's always something for everybody.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And Danny, you are totally right. Comics are one hell of a drug. That is the truth. What's up, Frost Behemoth? How you doing? All right. Well, I think that concludes the segment here, and I'm going to ask you one more time to lend your beatboxing skills to the outro to this segment that we call Oh, I did lower voice. I'm going to go higher voice this time. Match your beatboxing accordingly. Anyway, we call this segment that we just finished up. I need a deep breath after that one. Oh crap. I didn't mean to hit that again. See, Jeff's the producer here. I make mistakes all the time. Anyway, that was Ask Joe. We are on to a segment that I think it's our best segment. It's our big headliner, our big flagpole at the end of the show. Jeff usually forgets the name, but this week Jeff's amnesia has rubbed off on me, and I'm forgetting the name of the show. This segment rather. Crap. Mike, do you remember what it's called?
I believe it's called Fresh from the Comic Shop.
Why? From the pressing salon, we've got Fresh from the Comic Shop here on Comic Book Canon, where you submit your books weekly on Instagram using the hashtag FFTCS, Fresh from the Comic Shop, and you show us your fresh get of the week, something that you've picked up. Again, it doesn't need to be something brand new. It could be a 30-year-old book that you just acquired, and you want to just show us your fresh get. And there is a little contest that goes along with this, a little bit of a game we got going on every month and every week, where if you win the weekly, if we pick yours as the finest Fresh from the Comic Shop submission, you are entered into our monthly giveaway. And we have one heck of a giveaway book for December. And we also, just a reminder, if you win a month during the year, we have a big 2023 giveaway. All 12 winners of the 12 months are going to have an opportunity to win that book, which we haven't decided what it is yet, but we are having a meeting about it soon. So stay tuned for that. But let's show this book of the month first, because this is, it's a beauty. Check this out. No, that's not the right book. That was last month's book. I'm just kidding. Jeff, did Jeff mess this up? I'm going to blame Jeff. Let's see. Fresh from the Comic Shop. I think he said he put it near the top. There we go. Fresh from the Comic Shop. He did put it near the top. This is Batman. The adventure continues. Season 3, number 4, with that beautiful bat signal cover. Actually, I think I'm actually not sure that that's the bat signal. I think that is, oh no, it is the bat signal. Just kidding. I thought Batman was riding a motorcycle and that was the headlight for a second. But look at that cover and look at that matching EGS label. And as always, this book was contributed to the show from Spider Dude Comics and was graded with that beautiful custom label by EGS. And they are the two sponsors of this segment of the show. Make sure you, give them a follow. Make sure you check them out on social media. And don't forget, you can also save 5% off of your EGS order by using the code Canon5. You can get these optional custom labels that just make the display of these slabs pop. They also have their own what's the word? I almost said priority. That's not the word. Proprietary slabs that are sturdy and strong, in my opinion, and Jeff's opinion, stronger and sturdier than the CBCS and CGC. And these custom labels are unlike any other. Love this stuff. Check out EGS. Check out Spider Dude Comics. They are awesome contributors to this show. So I'm going to show that book one more time because that's freaking awesome. Love it. Now, what do you have to do to win this book? Again, you have to submit to via Instagram. Just use the hashtag Fresh from the Comic Shop or hashtag FFTCS, and make sure you tag Comic Book Canon, tag 360 Comics, tag Popa Chili Town if you would like to as well. He's on here sometimes. Might as well. He'll get to see it too. Yeah, and
time. It's great. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Also, make sure that you think about our 3 criteria. The 3 criteria are: number 1, a well-composed shot. We want to see some cool angles, some cool lighting, maybe a little setup with some other little trinkets. Now, we got a bunch of people that do some awesome stuff. Definitely take note on Raising Elm. Every week, he comes in with a great picture, a great setup, a well-composed shot. We want it to be aesthetically pleasing. We don't want to look at it on just sitting on your, as Jeff says, your dirty bed sheets. Please don't do that. Have a cool setup. The second thing is we want it to be unique. Now, unique does not mean that it is $30,000. It doesn't necessarily have to be expensive. It has to be unique. It could be something that we've never seen before. It could be a book that has something special about it, a double cover, a Mark Jewelers insert, something that makes it stand out of the pack. It could be a random indie book, a self-published book. It could have some original artwork on it. It could have, I don't know, 30 extra staples in it and weigh like 1.5 pounds. Whatever you want. The third thing is the story behind it. We want it to tug at our heartstrings. This could be a story about, how you had this book as a kid, or how you acquired it from a longtime friend that you reconnected with, or anything. Jeff always goes off on some wild story. I'm going to cut that tonight because I want to watch the Eagles soon. But give us a good story, tug on the heartstrings, tell us what it means to you, because that is the way to get a good, fresh from the comic shop submission. And I think it's time to get into it. Let's see, where are we? I missed a ton of stuff in the chat, but I think we are good. Boom. Fresh from the comic shop. Let's see who is up first. Again, this is the book of the month, and we're getting into it with our good friend, Nori Jordan. And guess what? It's a Thunderbolts book. This was a good week for new comics at my LCS. The next Daredevil came out and had a Bullseye appearance, and the new Sentry series came out. Oh, and a new Thunderbolts series launched. I won't lie, I was a bit nervous about this series because the previous one was absolutely horrible. Luckily, the new series was a vast improvement, and I hope Marvel continues to put effort into this team. I would think they're going to. There is no shortage of variant and ratio covers for this book, but I was able to pick up almost all of them this week. I will get the other two I need because I am inevitable. Take care, everyone. For those of you who don't know, Nori Jordan, I think, is one book off. Am I remembering that correctly? One book off from having every single book, what's it called? Thunderbolts book. I think he's missing one variant. Anyway, on to the next. We've got Nukes Comics. Ooh, love this cover. Love this book. And it is kind of like a little homage. Nukes Comics, fresh from the comic shop. Fantastic Four 325. The Silver Surfer glides to the Human Torch's rescue. Can his cosmic power restore Johnny's humanity? All while Mantis's fate hangs in the balance at the hands of the cruel Kang the Conqueror. I believe this is up I picked this up from DBS. It will go straight to my son's personal collection, who says run fills can't be fun filled. I like that. I like that a lot. Good stuff indeed. And I totally agree with that.
What number was that?
That is 325. And that is, it's I believe it's an homage to that Jack Kirby cover. I think it's issued like 74 or something, 78. I forget.
I was going to say, I don't think I've ever seen that cover.
Yeah.
And I love, obviously it's very evocative of Kirby. I love it.
Yeah, it is a super cool cover for sure. All right, next one we've got, boom, Pete Keel in the house. Doctor Strange, number 81, first Rintraw and the last issue of the book. Case is 100% cocaine free. That is good. I'm glad that Case is 100% cocaine free. I'm not sure what that means. Pete Keel, you can explain yourself in the chat if you would like to. Maybe it's that white line down the center. I'm not sure, but either way, great book. Last book of the original Doctor Strange run, or the original one that started with number 1. I don't really know how to call it the original one because there's that one that Strange Tales became Doctor Strange, but whatever. This is the run people love to collect, and it's the first full appearance of Rintraw. Very cool.
That was my jam. Like after the first 2 series, I collected out of back issue bins was the Eagle Judge Dredd series and this run of Doctor Strange.
Cool.
A bookstore near me, happened to have like basically the whole run. And yeah, so that's I got real feels for that series.
Cool. Let's see. I know what means if that means peak heel. Never done cocaine, but I'm guessing. Right. There we go. Mike, you want to show us your first fresh from the comic shop?
Sure. These were in a smallish little bundle. I wouldn't even call it a collection. It was a bundle, a couple boxes. Little unusual, a little different. So I thought I'd bring these in. These are 4 books, paperback size. These are Signet pocket. I guess they're kind of like pocket books. I don't know if I think another company did technically the pocket books, but these are published by Signet, and they're all Batman. So there's the first one was Batman versus the 3 Villains of Doom. This is actually a novel, a text novel. From the Adam West time. I didn't check the publication date, but it must be, late 60s, I'm assuming. First printing, April 1966. There's this one. And then these 3, the reason I brought them in is because these remind me of how, like, literally the first comic thing I ever read were Spider-Man pocket books, which were the reprints of the original, kind of 8 or 10 issues of Amazing Spider-Man. But these, again, are Batmans. There's the best of the original Batman. And you can see it's like, they've just sort of taken panel and put them into paperback form.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then there was this one, Batman versus the Penguin. So all Penguin stories. And then the last one, which of course is probably the coolest cover, is there was the Batman versus the Joker one on there.
Nice. And that looks like, is that Jerry Robinson art on the cover? I think that's,
yeah, I mean, it probably is. I'm sure they just,
I think that is one of the heads that cover. It's got a pink background like this, and there's like 6 or 7 Joker heads arching over Batman. I think it's Batman issue 66, if I remember. I'm pretty sure it's a Jerry Robinson cover, but I might be wrong.
And then on the back, I mean, you can see these definitely came out at the time of, the Batman 66 TV show. We're sort of picking up on that. So, yeah, so I just thought these were pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you know what? I'm going to do my fresh from the comic shop next because it also relates to Batman 66. And this was in a collection that I bought this week. I'm not a big magazine guy. I don't actively seek them out, but when they come in comic collections, cool, awesome. I'll either give them away, give them away or sell them to someone. This one might end up being a keeper though. I'm not sure. This is Castle of Frankenstein number 9. And this has a really awesome Cesar Romero Joker cover and has a whole section of Batman, the 1966 Batman television series. It's got a bunch of the characters down here. We got Joker, Riddler, Penguin, and Catwoman. And then we've got animated versions of Batman and Robin, or drawn versions. I haven't cracked this open yet, but definitely cool stuff. And whether I keep it or not, I'm definitely going to crack it open and take a look at what's inside, because I'm a little curious about what the contents of that magazine was. That is, by the way, that's, I believe, I don't think that's from the 60s. I believe that would be from the 70s, but I might be wrong about this. I don't know. I'll have to check out the year, but very cool book nonetheless. Josh says I'll take it. Well, Josh, if I do sell it, it will be, you can get first dibs on it, but cool stuff. All right. Moving on. Who is next? We've got, who just went? Peak Heel just went. Oh, here we go. Raising Elm Comics. This is a really, really cool one. These homage covers, they know no ends. They know no ends. We've got homages of movie posters. We've got homages of other comics. This one homages a children's book, and we've seen some of those in the past before. Raising Elm says, howdy, comic fam. I blame you for this week's submission. Jeff, Comic Book Canon, he's not here right now, but Jeff, just know that you are to blame for this. The past few weeks, I have been contemplating picking up a copy of Void Rivals, but not quite sure why. It's almost like I'm getting subliminal messages on Sundays or something. Yes, Jeff, He is a big fan of Void Rivals, and he is kind of subconsciously drilling that into all of our skulls. In all seriousness, though, I was on the fence about getting one. That was until I saw this second print variant of Void Rivals, issue number 1. The homage cover is not from an earlier comic, but instead inspired by a children's classic, A Little Golden Book, the monster at the end of the book, starring the lovable, furry old Grover. Randy, that's Justin's wife, and I both enjoyed reading this book as kids, and now we are reading it to our child too. If you think about it, Grover is like the Sesame Street version of Deadpool. That is true. Grover does break the fourth wall. Thanks for the tip on Void Rivals, Jeff. Much love, comic fan. Be warned, there will be a creepy monster at the end of this year's submission. There we go. Awesome stuff, Justin. Very, very cool. And it's great that you get to share that with your kid. Very awesome. Moving on, we got Josh's Comics is the next one. And let's see what Josh got. Ooh, here's a cool one. Stranger Things Halloween Special number 1. This is a one-shot issue featuring the story, The Child Eater of Hawkins. My Fresh from the Comic Shop is this awesome one-shot featuring a great story, building out the world of one of my favorite TV shows, Stranger Things. Classic story, cover, and art. And yes, this... Josh, we love what you've been doing with these submissions, that awesome background with the Mind Flayer. That's what it's called, right? The Mind Flayer. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, Stranger Things, it's caught on to be something so big, and I think they're doing one more season of the show, and I think that's perfect because it's been so good the whole time. I'm glad they're just doing one more because those kids are getting older. It's a perfect time to pull the plug on it before it gets bad, you know? Like, I just rewatched all of Community, and that 6th season of Community is so unwatchable. But
it's especially when there's a gap. Wasn't there a gap between season 5 and 6, or am I misremembering that on Community?
There might have been a little gap. It wasn't like the one on like Arrested Development, but
yeah. Sometimes you can't go home again, man.
Right. So, yeah, I think there was a little gap. I don't know. Anyway, moving on, and Mike, I hope you're taking notes because you are going to help me pick a winner this week. Oh, look at this guy. He's way ahead of the game. All right, here we go. On to the next. We've got, was Josh, Into Oblivion. Uh-oh. Jeff's not here to talk about how much I love Spider-Boy, so I'll talk about how much I love Spider-Boy. Spider-Boy number 1, first solo series featuring Spider-Boy. First appearance of Gutterball, a bowling-themed villain. And I made that joke on the show. If you like bowling, you got to pick up this book. First appearance of Helafino, cover A, art by Umberto Ramos, foil variant by Kare Andrews, secrets of Spider-Boy revealed, spinning out of the pages of Dan Slott and Mark Bagley's monumental Spider-Man run. Here comes the spectacular Spider-Boy after the events of the end of the Spider-Verse. Spider-Boy's secret history as Spider-Man's sidekick was nearly forgotten forever. But now those mysteries will be revealed while they embark on new exciting adventures together. And yeah, I think this is such a fun thing. It is definitely more geared towards kids, this book. So if you have a younger, person in your life, whether a child, younger sibling, cousin, nephew, whatever it may be, this is a great book to have them read. I'm definitely going to be, once there's a couple issues in, I'll probably bring them over to my nephew and we'll read them together.
Joe, there's some breaking news from Jeff in the chat. I don't know if you see his most recent message.
Jeff, we know you have COVID.
Did you know this?
I heard it. I heard all about it. I unfortunately had to witness the great reveal of Jeff having COVID, which
this is shocking to me.
Sorry, it's not going to happen. I got the COVID.
Terrible news.
Why does he cough like that? He's a mess. Oh, well. All right. Anyway, moving on. Mike, what is your next fresh from the comic shop?
You guys might be about to witness Joe's head explode. He doesn't know this. I didn't know this an hour ago when I was over at his house and dropping some stuff off. But I was coming to his house from picking up a small box of comics off a guy. not a lot, nothing to really write home about. Like, there's some just nice condition, kind of bronze, late silver, early bronze, mostly DC stuff. And I don't think I really noticed. Well, obviously, I didn't notice that this book was in there, or I might have mentioned it to Joe. Joe, do you remember there was a little, like there's some bronze horror out there. I know you're a horror guy.
Oh God.
Have you ever heard of this DC title, House of Secrets?
No.
You haven't?
If you're showing me what I think you're showing me.
So, there was an earlier House of Secrets run, and then it kind of ended, and then it restarted in the 70s at issue 81.
81, yeah. Great cover.
And anyway, there was one copy of House of Secrets in there, and kind of from earlier in that second part of the run, not too deep into it. It's still kind of double digits. And nice high grade. So yeah, it's DC House of Secrets number 93. You son of a bitch! You couldn't buy it 1 month earlier. What is your problem? I hate you.
Oh my God.
Anyway, it's got a really cool Bernie Wrightson cover.
Yeah, that is a fantastic book, and one that has quite a bit of value due to the Bernie Wrightson cover.
Yeah.
Not quite as much as 92.
Really sharp copy too.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
This was a Facebook Marketplace buy?
This was someone that reached out to our buddy Paul Bond, who was not able to go and meet the guy, and he very kindly passed him my info.
Nice.
Yeah.
Great book. I have that in my PC because I love Wrightson.
Yeah. So, God damn you! Anyway, House of Secrets number 93.
93. Oh man, you had me going there for a second. I truly thought you were about to just pull up a 92 in front of me and make me feel.
I don't know if I could have contained it that long if I.
Yeah. Right, because you were at my house like what 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago, something like that. Anyway, on to my next Fresh from the Comic Shop. Now, I posted about this. I usually don't post about a book on Instagram and then bring it to Fresh from the Comic Shop. I usually try to hold off on posting those until after, but this book is just so freaking cool that I had to show it even after posting a reel on Instagram and stuff. And I said book, I meant book. This is a first printing, terrible condition, but first printing of Seduction of the Innocent. It's actually missing part of the cover page. Boom. And Josh and Jeff, you're going to like this because this is kind of cool. And Josh and Jeff both being Delaware people. This is the copy from the University of Delaware Library. And it actually has the Dewey Decimal System code on the spine still. And it still has the little pocket of, people who checked it out. This, the intake date on this book is 1954 when this book was printed. So they bought this right away, added it to their library, and I guess this was the copy they had for many, many years. Very, very cool. And one thing that I didn't realize, because I've never owned this before, never really looked it up online, but the middle section of the book actually includes visualization. So there's actually like comics. Most of it is words. It's written work, but the whole middle section has these actual examples of what they're talking about in the comics. And this one is my favorite right here. This one says the caption for this is cover of a children's comic book. And that is crime suspense stories 22. I forget what number it is. It's a crime suspense stories issue right here of a guy hanging. Clearly that book was not made for children, but they tried to make people believe it was. Book burning is bad, as we know. Book burning is being on the wrong side of history. Seduction of the Innocent, terrible, terrible piece of comic book history, but an important piece of comic book history nonetheless. That's a that is staying in my personal collection.
Did you see that that picture that made the rounds on Instagram a couple months ago of the guy that collected all the issues that were used in the congressional hearing at the time of Seduction of the Innocent? You know, you know what I'm talking about?
No. I mean, they're listed on Key Collector. There's a section that's Sodi books.
Well, someone had collected them all and had them all graded, and he took a picture of a picture from the era of the books up on like a board, and he recreated that picture with the graded versions of it's I'll send it to you. If you haven't seen it, it's really cool.
That's awesome. And there's a lot. I think it's like 150 or 170 books. And we're talking Golden Age books. Not just that, but some of the Golden Age books that were probably burned the most. So a lot of stuff that is really, really scarce, hard to find, and very sought after. We'll be coming back to a little bit more of Seduction of the Innocent in my last Fresh from the Comic Shop, but we got a couple more of community members to show real quick before we come back to that. Starting off with, who do we do? Into Oblivion was last. We got Mark Leneker, always bringing something really awesome to the table. Tim Holt, 21, 1951. By Magazine Enterprises. Tim Holt was a popular Western actor for RKO, and like many cinematic cowboys, had an ongoing comic book series. His costumed alter ego was Red Mask, but the real star here is the early cover work by legendary artist Frank Frazetta. I did not know that. Nice. Featuring the Golden Age Ghost Rider. Yes, there was a Ghost Rider well before the one we mostly know. Christmas came early with this pickup. I agree with you, Mark. A very cool book. And yeah, that Golden Age Ghost Rider, which Marvel eventually kind of took over. I don't know if it's the same one. I think he had a different name. It wasn't Carter Slade, but he looks exactly like Carter Slade. So I think Marvel eventually got the rights to that character, or whatever it may be, and utilized him in the Silver Age, and then obviously revamped the character of Ghost Rider in the Bronze Age. That's a pretty freaking cool book. Moving on, we got just a couple more, and then our last fresh gets, we've got Goonish Lurker next. Oh, look at that. I actually just bought a whole box of Heavy Metal this week. Let's see what Goonish Lurker got. It's been a while since my last Fresh from the Comic Shop, but hauling in the goods for this submission. Coming in hot like Mrs. Claus's cookies for the old St. Nick, I picked up this 1977 December issue of Heavy Metal, Mutiny in Info Cafe holiday auction last week. This cover is by French artist, cartoonist, I'm going to butcher this, Jean Soleil, probably, maybe, I don't know. Judge that for yourself. Whose work has spanned from the 1970s through today, including movie posters, albums, and the iconic cover of Rotar's Guide, Backpacker's Guide. Oh, cool. Nice. Heavy Metal is one of my favorite publications to pick up. It's incredibly influential to my exposure to artists I follow, and even some of these artist pages I follow on Instagram. Glad to share this present to myself with you all. Stay safe, stay warm, and reach out to your people. Goonish, that was an awesome submission. And 1977 was, I think, the first year Heavy Metal was in publication. I'm pretty sure they started in 77. So that would be an early issue. I'm pretty sure that run started then, because 92 is the 15-year anniversary issue. Why do I know that? Because I just bought a box of it. Anyway, we got a couple more. Ooh, here's a nice one from Comic Demon. Some sweet Virgin covers from the Gargoyles run. Some great art. Heck yeah, we got some representation from a smaller, great indie label. This is Dynamite Comics, who one of our Pennsylvania Comic Mafia members, Alex Domsky, aka Collecting Dude, works right hand in hand with Dynamite. So pretty cool stuff with these Gargoyles covers. Thank you, Comic Demon. And last, before we get to ours, we've got one from, ready for it, Mike? Bond. Paul Bond. Nice. That was good. Good, good. With all the news of a female version of the Herald of Galactus, I'm surprised there's not more spec on this book. I'm going all in on the spec that it's actually Aunt May as the new Herald and not some other version. I think Paul is being a little facetious here, joking around a little bit about this what if issue. This is a really great book, though. It's very funny. Basically, Aunt May is a Herald of Galactus called the Golden Oldie, which is a hilarious name, given that she's an old lady. She teams up with Franklin Richards, and they have to, if I'm remembering correctly, they have to like search the universe for a Twinkie. This was a promotional book that was like done hand in hand with Twinkies. They had to find a Twinkie big enough to satisfy Galactus's hunger. So there you go. Very cool stuff.
And yeah, and then for the if you don't know, you can see there on the bottom right the Beware. It's Assistant Editors Month.
Yes, yeah.
That was the thing that Marvel used to do to sort of like, you knew that it was going to be a little bit of a jokier issue. Like the idea was, oh, the boss is off this month, so we get to kind of do whatever we want, and they would do like these kind of like funny, kind of goofy issues.
Yeah, yeah. Aunt May looking thick. Deep storyline. Yes, yes. We have to get the giant Twinkie. Very cool stuff. All right, Mike, your last fresh from the comic shop, and then we'll have to pick a winner so we can go watch the birds.
All right. So there's a story with this one, and I brought this because of the story. So I'll try to keep it as truncated as I can. So this is a pickup from, we had kind of talked about this a while ago, Joe, but you don't know I actually ended up getting something from this story. So I was at a local flea market, and these are actually some original art, which you know I'm into. And it also has some of my other interests involved in it. So let me show you what I got, and then I'll tell you a little bit about the backstory of it. So there's 3 different pieces here. They're all related to Doctor Who. So there's this one, which is my favorite Doctor, Tom Baker, the 4th Doctor.
Very cool. I like his hair.
Helping some guy, like homeless guy or something there. I don't know. Who knows who that guy is? I don't know. But it's a nice rendition of the 4th Doctor with this big scarf. And then this is actually really, really beautiful. This is
oh my God.
This is the 8th Doctor, Paul McGann. And if you don't, I know, Joe, you're not a fan of the show, but trust me, this is a very, very accurate rendition of Paul McGann from his one movie special in the mid '90s. So there's that, and then there's this last one, which is another picture of Paul McGann, which is what the hell is going on here?
Whoa!
And I had to post it over this guy because there's something crazy going on there. Let me take that down.
Wow. Yeah, that's
Here's
something.
The story about let me take a glass of water real quick. Hang on. About over a year ago, I was at this flea market and saw a guy that had a bunch of paper called paper ephemera that he was selling. A lot of art stuff and different things. And I went up and I said, hey, you got any comic books? And he's like, no. I was like, okay. And I turned to walk away and he goes, what about comic art? Are you into that? And I was like,
yeah,
like,
right.
What?
Yeah. Yes, please.
So he's like, yeah, I'm into that. And then he goes, hey, do you know Dr. Oz? I was like, no, this was around the time of the election, and I'm in like rural Pennsylvania, and I'm like, oh my God, what crazy, weird ass conversation am I about to get pulled into? If you guys remember, Dr. Oz was running for senator of Pennsylvania. And then he starts talking, and I realized he didn't mean Dr. Oz. He was talking about Doctor Who.
Oh my God, he got Doctor Who and Dr. Oz mixed up.
Right. So now I wasn't wearing anything Doctor Who-y, right? So, which sometimes I do, like I have a TARDIS sweater or whatever on or whatever.
Right.
So all I did was ask this guy about comics. And all of a sudden, now we're talking about original art and Doctor Who, right? And I'm like, what is happening now? So then he's like, yeah, I clean out houses, and I came into this big stash of original Doctor Who, or he finally said Doctor Who art.
Wow.
And it's all like Doctor Who erotica.
Oh my God.
Now at this point, now my interest level is dying down.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so some thirsty woman out there, was just drawing fan, that there's erotica versions of all kinds of characters out there, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so now, my interest is going up and down, and now it's like down because like, okay, this is just someone, whatever. And he says, oh yeah, and she even published a book. She published all this art, probably some self-published print-on-demand thing, right? In a book. And I'm like, okay, whatever, this is not going anywhere. And then he tells me the last part of this story. And then I was like, sir, you had my attention, but now you have my interest, right?
Right.
And I was like, okay, this is too weird. And I kind of feel like I have to have some of this stuff. The last part of the story he tells me is, yeah, I cleaned out this house. I found this big stash of artwork. And I started to ask the woman, the house I was cleaning out. And I said, what's the story on this? And she says, oh, and I can't remember if he said like it was my sister or my mother or something. Like she drew all that stuff. She really loved Paul McGann. And that was the main thing that she was really into in Doctor Who. And she drew all this stuff and published a book and things. And I can't remember the name of the woman, unfortunately. I have it written down somewhere. He said, oh, yeah, her name was blah, blah, blah. She was the daughter of Kurt Swan.
No freaking way.
This is the story.
Guys, Kurt Swan, like popular golden age and early silver age artist. You got some artwork up there? Somewhere? That one.
Yeah.
Cool.
One of the most famous Superman artists of all time.
Heck yeah.
Maybe the most famous, quite frankly.
He kind of straddled Neil Adams' run, right?
Yeah,
before and after Neil Adams.
So listen, I'm trying to sort of authenticate this. I can't find sort of the book anywhere, or like I think he showed me a picture of the book at one point. But anyway, I ended up over a year later, I ran into them at the same flea market, and he had the stuff with him because he didn't have it with him before.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I have to pick up some of this just as a total curiosity. If nothing, like I'm never going to get my money back on this. Like no one really is ever going to, even if I do authenticate it, like no one's ever really going to want it. Probably, it's just as you know, Joe, I love weird oddity, curiosities and whatever.
Sure, yeah.
And, so I just, the connection like to this great comic artist in this weird way. It just, I just had to have it. So I grabbed a few pieces. Let me tell you something. I can't show you. I don't want to get the show kicked off YouTube. I can't show you what's under the Post-it note. All I'll tell you is his daughter did not learn anatomy from Kurt Swan, and I'll leave it at that.
Oh gosh. If I'm putting the pieces of this story together of these pictures, did what is that? The sixth Doctor?
Paul McGann is the eighth Doctor.
The eighth Doctor. So did the eighth Doctor in this situation find a homeless man and pay him to dom him? Because that's what it seems like.
I mean, I guess we got to find this book. I guess we got to find the full story. All
right. That's enough of that for the week.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool though. That's that is what we call unique, folks. That wins the uniqueness award for sure. Very cool. Now, someone just said in the chat, I think it was Goonish said, what about Frost Behemoth? I guess we missed that one, but guess what? I got it up on my phone. So Frost Behemoth made a submission, and I'm going to show it in just a second. Last night, we went to see Godzilla -1, and on top of being awesome, which I've heard as well, and exposing me to some hair goals, it reminded me that I picked up this King Ghidorah Hungry Like a Monster #1 for my LCS's holiday auction. I can't stop thinking about that movie. It was so awesome. Certain parts gave me Shadow of the Colossus nostalgia. Great game, by the way. And now I really want to replay that game. and watch old Godzilla movies and generally consume all things gigantic. The comic came with a pack of coffee, interesting, which someone else will need to drink for me because I can't do pineapple. Heads up, Frost Behemoth. I love coffee and I love pineapple. Christmas is coming up. No pressure, but come on. The whole package is super fun, though. Maybe I'll gift it to someone for the holidays. Sadly, I don't have any kaiju figs, so my Jersey Devil plush will be filling in this time as my monster of the week. And let's get me all set up here to show this. Let's get the glare off there. There we go. Awesome submission. Very cool positioning with the book. And I think that's the pack of coffee in front of the book. And we got a Jersey Devil plushie next to it, similar to a kaiju. We'll call that the New Jersey equivalent of a kaiju. Very, very cool. Awesome stuff. And then we have one more submission, and that is mine, my last one of the week. This is very cool. This is, I mentioned Seduction of the Innocent earlier, and I said this has something to do with it. It does. It does. This is one of the books used in Seduction of the Innocent. This is Sensation Comics number 81. Early 1950s, I would guess. Wonder Woman story, as most Sensation comics are. That was her run. Not only that, this is from the Secret Sound collection, which is not a pedigree. Pedigrees require original ownership. This was a collection that was amassed as buying back issues, or mostly back issues. Golden Age Guru.
Highlight that guy, man.
What's that?
Highlight that guy.
Highlight that guy. We're on. That's the wrong show. They have that copyrighted. We now owe 3 Men in a Basement 40.
Not this guy. Oh, he kicked himself off?
I didn't mean to do that. This is why we need Jeff. Highlight that guy. All right. There we go. Sensation Comics number 81, used in Seduction of the Innocent. The thing about this book that I really found most fascinating is the reason this was used in Seduction of the Innocent is actually something that I agree with. Not necessarily that it needs to be censored, but listen to what this is. In this story, someone is basically saying that immigrants in America are a nuisance, they're criminals, they're taking people's jobs, all of the talking points that we've heard over the years. And I'm not going to try to get political or anything, but I think this is worth mentioning because America is a land of immigrants. And back then, even the Seduction of the Innocent people that were condemning and burning these books, they knew that America is a land of immigrants, and that is something that should be cherished rather than, talked crap upon. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Usually it's violence or something of the like, something against what they wanted children to learn about. But yeah, that was, I thought that was a really interesting story. And just the fact that it's a Golden Age Wonder Woman book, again, from the Secret Sound collection. I thought that one was really, really cool. How do I unhighlight myself? Boom. There we go. I figured it out. So yeah, that is staying in the personal collection. That is not one that's up for sale anytime soon. So that is staying with me. All right. We're at that time, man.
Yeah.
At the end of the show. We gotta pick a winner.
Yeah.
Who do you got?
Who's disqualified? I mean, not disqualified. Who's not eligible?
Well, you let me know who your favorites are, and I'll go through who is eligible and not off the top of my head, and hopefully I'll be able to get that. You tell me.
I'm just gonna jump right in because we're cruising along here. So I'll tell you, I liked Mark Leneker.
Okay, Mark Leneker. Hold on, let me pull that up. Boom, great one. Tim Holt. We got that Golden Age Ghost Rider. We've got this really cool cover by Frank Frazetta, an early Frazetta cover. Definitely a really unique book. Definitely something we really haven't seen before. Yeah, I agree.
I like Goonish Lurker.
Goonish. Oh, yeah, Goonish Lurker with that heavy metal. Goonish, tell us in the chat if you won, because I honestly forget if you ever won. I know you were nominated a couple times, but very cool book, heavy metal from 1977 in the holiday spirit. What else?
And I like that Frost Behemoth.
Okay, well that one is in my hand. We'll do one of these little things. Boom, hold it up there.
Show us that behemoth in your hand.
What?
What?
What? There we go. Highlight that guy. Now we owe them $80. Trying to get that in focus. Okay, that's a cool setup. Think Frost Behemoth won recently. I might be wrong about that, but let's see. Let us know, Frost Behemoth, if you won. Goonish Lurker has never won. Sorry, I apologize.
All right, that's my vote.
Your vote was Goonish Lurker anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. Goonish Lurker, we had some over. Wow, I'm really fuzzy. There we go. Fixed it. Goonish Lurker, we had a little bit of overlap, but Goonish Lurker was my top as well. So yeah, heck yeah. Goonish Lurker, congratulations on the win. Going up against whoever won before. I don't know who won last week. I don't keep up with this stuff. It's usually Jeff. He's not here. He's got COVID, aka he's watching the Eagles game, but it's not going so well. Last time I looked, it was I think 17-3. 17-7, 17-7, maybe. I forget. Either way, I was not happy with the score, but there's a lot of game left. Congratulations to Goonish Lurker. Mike, thanks for coming on. Thanks for being our guest co-host tonight with Jeff having COVID. Yeah, anything you want to say before we leave?
No, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here as always. Got the big Kirby hand coming at my face there.
I'm trying to get myself back in focus, but it's not working. There we go. Back in focus.
Yeah, it's holiday season. I don't have anything major coming up, like no shows or anything to promote or anything like that. Just trying to contribute as much as I can to Instagram. And again, I'll probably be more active after the new year and my job has died down a little bit, but thanks again for having me and always great to see you guys.
Yeah. Awesome. Obviously Mike and I do stuff together every week. We do our, claim sales, not every week. Mike doesn't do them every week, but when he does, we do combined shipping and stuff. No Back Deck Comic Fest coming up for us. But if you're ever out on the East Coast, come hang. We'll be doing them again in the spring. But yeah, it's going to be kind of slow the next couple weeks as far as all that stuff because the holiday season. But as always, we will be here. Reminder, we are not doing there's Sunday is Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. So instead of doing those two shows, we're going to do one show in between them during the week sometime. We haven't picked a day yet. Check it out on Instagram. We'll be definitely putting that information up. But yeah, thank you all for being here, putting up with me mishandling the production all night. I am not a Jeff level producer, but I try my best and I appreciate it. P. Keel, I'm not even going to highlight your comment, but no, Nukes, no as well. Go Birds. And as always, be good to yourself, be good to others. Peace. And I got to click the thing that is the goodbye. I think it's this one. Let's try it.